pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Everyone had the opportunity to view the county board minutes 2 weeks ago. Is there a motion to approve the?
Second.
There's a motion by Commissioner Wincher, a second by Commissioner Wilson to approve the board minutes from 2 weeks ago. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. The agenda, do we have any additions or deletions?
Not at this time.
Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So
for this-
moved.
Commissioner Jelinski makes a motion to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
A second by Commissioner Lemire. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion prevails. First on the agenda, Mr. LeBlanc.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners. We have 2 new employees to bring in front of the board today as part of their onboarding process, and 1 employee to highlight for receiving recognition. First is Health and Human Services.
Good morning. I'd like to introduce Deanna Anderson. She is our new accountant in Health and Human Services, primarily working under public health, doing the most of the billing and employee claims and things like that. So she comes to us from Napa, where she's worked for many years, starting here and moving to St. Cloud, and now she only drives a few blocks versus 30 miles. So,
Good.
Excellent.
so we're glad to have her.
Excellent. Welcome aboard.
Welcome aboard, yes.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Next is
Thanks,
Public
Brad.
Works.
Thanks, Deanna.
Good morning, Tony.
Commissioners.
Morning, Tony.
So Becky Gaffey started with us last Wednesday, the 12th. She's going to be our office administrative specialist and work directly with Sherry Linsky there. She comes from an insurance agency out of Randall, and we're very, very excited to have her in this position.
Excellent.
Welcome aboard.
Welcome.
Thank you, Becky.
Yep, she'll be your first contact when you walk through the door or call. So.
Very good.
Cool.
Awesome.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tony.
And the Sheriff's Office, please.
Good morning, Sheriff Larson.
Sheriff.
Chair and members of the board.
Welcome, Sheriff and Joel.
Morning, Joel.
So maybe I'll just get into the report a little bit. If we can pull my report up and just show the photo of Sergeant Gross. This was taken at the Minnesota Sheriff's Association Winter Conference this year. Perfect, right there. So it was December 6th. We're at the Arrowwood Resort in Alexandria. It was the 136th Annual Minnesota Sheriff's Association Winter Sheriff's Conference. And prior to this conference, as sheriffs, we were allowed to submit applications and nominate a Supervisor of the Year. I put in for Sergeant Joel Gross. All 87 sheriffs throughout the county can put in a nominee if they want to. And then there's a review board, and the review board selected Sergeant Joel Gross. So he was recognized on December 6th, and I kind of talked to our county administrator, and we talked about it's great that we can recognize someone at a state level and at the MSA, but it's also great to share that same story locally. So that's kind of what we're doing here today. So what I want to do is just kind of read the nomination letter, what was submitted, and recognize Patrol Sergeant Gross here in front of all of you guys, if that's okay.
Excellent.
So just to begin, one of the qualifications for Supervisor of the Year, in order to submit it, it says the Sheriff Supervisor of the Year award is presented to a sworn Sheriff Supervisor who has performed at a high level and has contributed significantly to the betterment of the office and the community. So a little bit about Joel. He's a farmer, so right off the bat, you know he's not scared of work. He's got over 30 years of law enforcement experience. He's obviously a veteran on our agency, with our agency. He previously worked for the St. Francis Police Department, Anoka County. So getting back to that photo, you'll see that there were members who used to work with him included in that photo. We have Tom Wells, who is the training coordinator on your left, I'm sorry, on the far left as you're looking at the picture. So he's the Minnesota Sheriff's Association training coordinator. He used to be a deputy, I believe, with the Anoka County Sheriff's Office. Then you have the sheriff, Jim Stewart of Anoka County. Then, of course, you have Patrol Sergeant Joel Gross. And then you have Chip Heath, who used to work here locally, Little Falls PD. And I believe he is the commander now of the Anoka County Sheriff's Office. And then you have Anoka County's chief deputy. Remind me of his name again.
Kevin Hellwig.
Yeah, Kevin Hellwig. So that was a picture just taken right after we presented the award. So a little bit about Joel. He's humble. He leads by example. He doesn't need praise. Anytime you give him an email or a pat on the back, he simply just says, you know what, I'm just doing my job. So those are the kind of people that you want working for you. You want to be surrounded by. And he's knowledgeable. He's a team player. And I can tell you from experience that everyone, including myself, looks up to him. So with that, I'll just read a little bit about the nomination letter that I submitted. Sergeant Gross plays a major role in all the assignments that he's involved in. Sergeant Gross was assigned patrol sergeant after I became sheriff in January of 2015. He's always been a leader, but he has taken that role to another level throughout the years. Gross is currently the direct supervisor of all the deputies. As a patrol sergeant, he's responsible for training staff in firearms, less lethal, and taser. Additionally, he's our SWAT team commander, as well as one of the snipers on the team. Joel is also one of our background investigators, and these are just some of the tasks that he performs, but he performs all of them with attention to detail while having the agency's best interest in mind at all times. So if I had to explain Sergeant Gross to someone who didn't know him, I'd tell him that he's the law enforcement officer that you want by your side when you deal with the worst call imaginable. Gross is always calm and uses common sense. He knows everyone's role and he empowers everyone to be a leader. No matter what type of call for service is requested, he is always the first to get involved. He's the reason why law enforcement officers want to stay in this business. He is constantly giving solid advice to deputies and communicating often with them. He always does his job in a professional manner. And then I shared a story on one occasion where someone was arrested for DWI by Sergeant Gross, and they wrote me this long letter how I should be recognizing him because he performed his duty in a professional and courteous manner, and he was just very thankful that Sergeant Gross stopped him that night and saved his life. Joel is also fearless. One example was a recent farm accident that occurred near Royalton. Our office received a call that a 61-year-old victim was pinned inside a grain bin with soybeans up to his neck. Area first responders were dispatched to the scene, and Sergeant Gross was one of the first responding emergency personnel to arrive. Sergeant Gross took swift action by going inside the grain bin, tying a rope to the victim's left arm, which prevented the victim from sinking lower into the soybeans. Sergeant Gross provided oxygen to the victim with the assistance of other first responders. Fire and rescue continued to work on the victim while Sergeant Gross stayed by his side the entire time. At the time of the incident, the grain bin was half full of soybeans, and the victim was ultimately rescued 2 hours after initial contact. So this is just one example how Sergeant Gross leads by example, and he doesn't think twice about sacrificing his own safety for others. So I just wanted to share with the board this nomination. This is just one example. I could come up with 100, easily more than that, examples of what he does for our agency. And he really kind of gels everybody together. And like I mentioned earlier, everybody does look up to him. And he is that person that does give good, solid advice. I know it probably kills him to sit here as he listens to all this, but that's what makes me even more proud of him. So with that, I'll turn it over to the board if you guys have any comments.
Gentlemen,
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Jelinski.
I've known Sergeant Gross for a long time professionally, a very long time. Worked with him for a long, long time. And I can't be happier to be in the presence of the two of you, especially Sheriff, after you just went through what you went through, the reading that you did. All I could do was say, woo, I can echo that over and over and over. Congratulations, Sergeant.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Commissioner Wilson.
I just want to thank you for all you do. I know when you were talking about the farming part of that, though, he's got a wife and family that helps him an awful lot out there.
Absolutely.
And they made everything work, and Joel's always been a good guy to do stuff, and so I thank you very much, Joel.
Thank you. And you're right, I do have a great family, and that's, and great employees, so.
Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this is something that the county sheriff, that you know, and I'm sure that Sergeant Gross does too, to be proud of, to have you here working for our county. So, as myself and my people that I represent, we all appreciate what you
Thank
do.
you.
And congratulations.
Thange you very much.
Commissioner Lemire.
I would like to say thank you for everything you do too, and I can tell by you sitting there that you're a humble person, and when I do see you at scenes, you're always the nicest guy you could ask for, and we as commissioners appreciate everything you do, and thank you, Sheriff, for bringing this forward to us.
Thank you.
Yes, Sheriff, Mr. Gross, we're both proud to have Joel as an employee and representing the county through the sheriff's department. But we're also grateful that we have an employee with such high caliber every day on the job. So that's all I can say. Thank you for being here, and Sheriff, before we conclude today, I think we should take a minute for an opportunity to take a photo with Mr. Gross.
Mr. Chair, if we just give him a round of applause for receiving this state level award.
That's worse than interrogation.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you don't want
I
to be
can
here.
see that, yeah.
Yeah, thank you very much. I certainly appreciate it, and I appreciate the support. And just a quick note, supervising is easy when you supervise great people. In this county, for our sheriff's office and throughout the county, we have great employees, and I see that daily and mostly nightly. But certainly appreciate the support.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If it's okay, can we get that photo now? Because I know he's got several tasks he's probably looking at doing.
We certainly can.
Okay.
We certainly can.
Sure.
How do we want to do it?
Let's just squeeze together.
Or do we? Okay. We can do that.
You're gonna go up behind us, Joel, I guess.
Yeah. You got Tabitha there, she's a photograph.
If you're gonna say all those nice things, then you can
Just make sure that you don't hide behind one of us.
straighten that tie.
Very, very deserving.
I think Matt should get in here too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're kind of centered.
You are. You smile. Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna do one more here. 1, 2. There we go.
You had the lens cover on.
Yeah.
Congratulations, Sergeant. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair, if I can, I'll just kind of,
Sheriff Larson, you go ahead and continue with your report.
okay. There was another photo that was present. It was our jail administrator, Scott Matisic, and as we're all aware, he retired the end of December. So I can tell you as far as where we're at, the contingent offer was made to a candidate, and The background is pretty much finished, so there's just a few administrative things we gotta do, and hopefully we'll get that person on board fairly soon. For training, I'll just kind of highlight what we did. We did 24 officers attended use of force taser refresher training. And basically, we're going over any policies and state statutes that pertain to use of force. It's mandated by Post Board, which is Peace Officer Standard and Training, that we fulfill this objective. So basically, we're working on anything that is around our gun belt. So if you basically baton training, taser training. Then, of course, we're working on kicks, punches, strikes, things of that nature. And then we're also working on use of force scenario. So we have scenario-based training set up where you'll roll into a scenario and we use impact munitions if needed. And we just kind of debrief after every scenario, what went good, what went bad, what can be changed, etc. You'll see the month of December, we had 82 criminal complaints. I'll just highlight kind of what we're looking the most of. We had 8 assaults, which included 4 fights, 4 domestics. That 6 o'clock position, we had disturbing the peace. We had 10 complaints. That includes stalking, disorderly conduct, public nuisance, and harassing communications. The 9 o'clock position, you'll see that's what we had the most of, and that was thefts. 5 of those were gas drive-offs. A couple from a vehicle. So in other words, there was an article or something that was stolen from a vehicle. And then we had some credit card thefts and worthless checks and things of that nature. Moving on to our traffic citations, we had 122 traffic citations. You'll see 76 verbal warnings, 22 written warnings with 11 speeds. Citations. Then you got our 2-year comparison. So I did a little bit of digging before I came down here to try and figure out why we're so lopsided on our total complaints and criminal complaints. What I found out is in 2019, we had 480 permits to purchase and carry. In 2020, which would have been last year, we had 745. And usually it kind of goes with like election years. So then this year it kind of dropped back off again. So that's why our total number of complaints went down. You'll see our criminal complaints went up, non-criminal, as with total complaints went down. Civil process went down. Drug investigations was pretty close, and total inmates went up a little bit. And last year we were kind of fighting more with the COVID. Even though we still have it and it's prevalent, we're able to adjust our numbers and get more people in this year. For total inmates, you'll see Morrison County averaged 34. We did have a couple inmates from Beltrami. Our total inmate population, to include out-of-county inmates, was averaged at 36. And then just to highlight our out-of-county inmates, we had 4, and we received $2,470 for revenue collected. With that, are there any questions for me?
Questions from the board?
I have nothing.
Good information, Sheriff.
Appreciate you guys' time.
Thank you for being here this morning.
Yep, thank you.
Mr. Chair, can we go back to the Public Works report, please?
We will. We will. Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. Yes, now we'll go back on the agenda, back to the Public Works report. Mr. Hennon, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning again, Tony.
All right, I have a few items this morning. The first, the Public Works Department is requesting approval for the replacement of engineering technician due to resignation.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire, second by Commissioner Jelinski. Any discussion?
Just
Any
going to
discussion?
Going.
Commissioner Wilson.
Going somewhere else for an engineer, or?
Yep, it was actually an individual who was deployed, and following his deployment, he chose a different career path, so he's going to pursue that.
Okay, it's good, thank you.
Any other discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Motion prevails.
Our second item today is a motion to authorize the Public Works Director to establish, sign, and appropriate and remove road restrictions.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Lemire, second by Commissioner Winchur. Any discussion? Commissioner Winchur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, this may have nothing to do with what we're doing here, but hopefully the rest of the board will agree. A few months, maybe, that we're gonna replace the signs that said like, Piers 20 miles, because they're fading out so bad. Did we ever get into that and get them, because I thought I still seen the old faded ones yet.
I'd have to review that with our sign department. Typically, what they'll do is they'll do a night, or once a year, an annual night survey of them.
Okay.
So even though a sign may look faded a little bit, it still actually has a retroreflective properties that are required. But I'll review that with our sign department and make sure we follow up on that.
Any other discussion? Mr. Hennon, you publish that publicly when the road restrictions will go on and obviously when they come off in the spring.
Correct, yep. Yeah, we follow MnDOT. We're part of the central area, and once MnDOT puts them on, we'll apply them as well, and once they remove, we'll remove as well.
Okay. We have a motion on the table. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion prevails.
And our last item this morning is a request to authorize the Public Works Director or his appropriate appointee to negotiate the 2022 gravel pit agreements with the property owners for the use on the county highway system.
So move.
Second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Wilson, second by Commissioner Lemire to approve the gravel pit agreements. Any further discussion?
Just, can you explain
Commissioner Lemire.
that a little bit for me, please?
So Morrison County has multiple pits throughout the county that will actually hire a crushing company to crush rock, make gravel for our road projects or our maintenance department. This year, we're anticipating using the Vernick pit off of County Road 47 and the Wagner pit kind of by Bolus off Township 130th. So how it works is we identify how much material or stockpiles we have on hand and try to anticipate what kind of material we're going to need for the year. And then we will put together a crushing agreement, and we'll put that out for a contractor, a letting, and bring them in. After that, they'll crush our materials, and then occasionally with our road construction projects, if we anticipate a contractor needing material, sometimes we'll allow them to go into that pit as well for our roads.
Very good. Thank you, Tony.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Wilson.
Tony, I know that Vernig pit, we bought some land from Vernig's up there, so are we working now in their pit? Or are we, you understand what I mean?
Yep, this will be an initial set inside our pit. So with the initial set, you have to remove overburden, so your first crushing cycle is not always the best. So anticipate 23, 24 to have a better crushing opportunities.
So we're working on that property though that we bought?
Yes, sir.
That pit, okay. Because they had a pit there, and is that part of us now or not, or don't you know?
I'm not familiar with that.
Okay, sounds good, sounds good.
Further discussion? Further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you, Tony.
Hennon.
Tony?
Next on the agenda, we have the extension report. Ms. Adams is here with us this morning.
Good
Morning, Dana.
Good morning, Dana.
Good morning, Dana.
Today I'm going to talk about several programs that we have coming our way. Starting on Thursday, both, the Druitzes, so Katie and Nathan, are working with me as a team to present Annie's project, which is targeted towards farming and ranching women. So it talks about personality styles, we cover insurance, we cover crops and livestock, common questions. We have currently 9 people enrolled. It's a very intensive but also bonding opportunity for these women. So it's also a 5-week course, but I'm really looking forward to it. It promises to have, as always within these projects, strong impact on these women and their farming and ranching operations. On the 25th, which is, I believe, next Wednesday, in Staples, they're having Cow-Calf Days, which is run by Dr. Eric Mosel through the University of Minnesota, and they have BQA training for all of our cattle producers, as well as I have it here, managing cow nutrition and feed waste, preparing the ranch for higher market prices, as well as a cattle market outlook with Dr. DiCostanzo. So good lineup, excellent opportunity for our cattle producers in the area, well, in Morrison County and the surrounding area. And then after that, the 26th is the Tour de Forage with Nathan Druitt's put together, and it is targeted towards both crops, but new this year, we're trying to broaden it so that it focuses on forages and dairy producers and forages. And I'll be speaking regarding that topic, as in high-quality forages, how you can use them in dairy cattle diets more effectively. So it's a high-quality product that can be optimized more. How can our producers do that? And then in mid-February, we're having Planning Your Dairy Farm Future in St. Cloud, and we are currently recruiting people to be involved in that program. So usually about 4 to 5 families, 4 weeks, and we talk about leadership and personality types, positioning your farm and people for success, identifying job roles, which is usually, pretty nebulous on a farm, as like when something gets dropped, somebody picks it up. So defining those roles and just getting a clear understanding of those farm dynamics, and then more business materials like how to strengthen and plan for your farms, usually aim towards transitioning farms, so farms who are transitioning to the next generation or their next step. So it's a very well-known program in this area, strong impact, and we are really looking forward to offering it. Did anyone have any questions for me?
Questions from the board? I do have one in reference to the topic you just spoke of on planning the future of dairy operations. So you said you're looking for 4 or 5 individuals or families to partake in that. Have those roles been filled already? Have you found participants for those?
So to my knowledge, no. We are currently recruiting. I'm working in partnership with Dr. Sulfur out of the U of M, and we're still currently recruiting. We try to aim it towards a family. It's the family is supposed to be there, as many people as possible. I mean, like if a cow's calving, that takes precedence, of course it does. But as many family members as possible, so that those discussions, so that knowledge is shared to the group, and those discussions can start in that room and continue at home at the kitchen table. I guess as long as it's relevant. But yes, we are currently recruiting for members of that cohort.
So will those 4 members, will those come strictly from Morrison County, or will those come from the region or anywhere in the state? Can you comment on that?
Yes, it's targeted towards our region. There's also one in southeast Minnesota, but the St. Cloud is like the locus, and then all parties who are interested, who it's relevant for, if they're interested in joining the program, we'd love to have them. So it's regional.
Very good, thank you. Further comments, gentlemen?
Thank you for your enthusiasm.
Thank you very much. Looks like you're very busy.
Oh, yes, I am. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dana.
Next on the agenda, Health and Human Services Report. Good morning, Brad.
Good morning, Mr.
Morning,
Chair.
Brad.
Welcome, Brad.
I have a couple of action items first. The first is to approve a mobile food unit for Crock and Roll here in Little Falls.
Make a motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Lemire,
Second.
second by Commissioner Wilson. Any discussion? Any comments? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion prevails.
Thank you. The second item I have is the 2022 tobacco license renewal. So this is our time when we renew most of the tobacco licenses in Morrison County. And the list is as presented.
Second.
So we have a motion by Commissioner Jelinski, a second by Commissioner Wincher, to approve the tobacco licenses. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, motion prevails.
And then I just have a couple of other things, if I may. March is not that far away, and that is Food Shelf Month, so our agency would like to again spearhead some food shelf activities and do fundraisers for the 3 food shelves in Morrison County. And as you know, I've come to the board to make you aware and make sure there were no concerns. So, and I talked with Mr. LeBlanc and the other department heads on Wednesday, and they were all looking forward to it, so.
Very good.
And then I thought I would just give a little bit of an update on COVID if I could. We are now starting to see the surge again here in Morrison County. We had a 14-day case rate of 96. That compares to December 30th of 38.8, so almost triple. Our kids, again, are starting to spike. The 5 to 18-year-olds, we had 46 today who are within that case rate, 0 to 4, 10, and that's what we've seen with Omicron, has been just the number of small kids who are getting COVID right now. And again, I think it challenges daycares and so, and then the 65 plus, there were 25 who have tested positive in the past 14 days. We have about 10 to 12 folks in the hospital right now. Again, it varies in terms of when we get the data. December, we had 8 individuals who had passed away due to COVID, and so far in January, we've had 2. And most of them are non-vaccinated individuals. We have a vaccination rate of 52% of those who are eligible to be vaccinated, so the 5 and older population, which equates to a total vaccination rate of 49% for Morrison County. The one thing in these surges, we've not seen a huge influx of long-term care cases. They are certainly getting some in long-term care facilities, but it is not shutting long-term care facilities down, so that has been good to see. They're managing it very well. And then just one other note, last week we were able to give away 450 at-home COVID tests. They were supplied by MDH. We did an announcement on KLTF, and they were gone in about 2 days. So we were glad to be able to give some of them away. So, and you know, I guess one of the things that I would say about our COVID rates that probably is not an accurate number because of the number of people who are taking at-home COVID tests and not reporting it to MDH or going to the hospital because they're managing their symptoms at home, which is good. Take an at-home COVID test. If you're positive, stay home, quarantine, take care of yourself. So even though we say we've had 318 cases in the past 14 days, it's probably not anywhere close to how many people have probably had COVID right now. So,
Are there any tests, excuse me,
Commissioner Wilson.
Are there any tests available yet that were given away, or are they all out, or?
We're all out now, yeah. Yep.
I didn't know if they restocked.
Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Lemire.
Of those that have passed away or that are hospitalized, is it the Delta variant or is it the Omicron variant? Do we know that?
We don't know. They do, when somebody tests positive, they do sequence some of them. But we've seen a few Omicrons in our line list, but we're not sure how many they are. They're saying 90% is Omicron now, but they're not sequencing everybody who tests positive, so.
Okay, and then how about influenza? Did you have any data on people getting the influenza?
Oh, I could have brought that too. I haven't looked at it recently, but the flu has been increasing as well in terms of the percentage of those that have the flu.
Okay. That's all I got, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Brad.
Gentlemen, any other questions, comments for Mr. Vold? Brad, I wish you a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brad. Keep smiling.
Next on the agenda, we have the auditor's report.
Good morning, Chelsea.
Good morning, Chelsea.
Thank you. Good morning.
Just to let everybody know, I just gave Chelsea a photo from third grade that she was a student of my wife. So I just happened to find that. So now we have a photo of her in the third grade.
Thank you for that. I turned
Will
out
that,
pretty
will
well.
that be published
Well,
or?
that's why I wanted to bring it up. And put it out there to public, so.
Good morning, good morning, Chelsea.
Good morning.
Morning, Chelsea.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Winter. On the agenda today, the first thing I have is a report. This is the annual report that I bring every year of our unpaid tax. So on this report, highlighted in the light blue, is our 2021, so just our last year. It shows our yearly tax charge, so our total tax base for the county. And then it went our delinquent date of the first of this year, and then the total delinquent to date as the beginning of the year. So we have outstanding delinquent $1,038,395.10, which is 2.34%. So it's just a nice visual to see every year. This report, what I like to see obviously is the percentage rate is going down. Of this report, there are about 118 pages that break down this unpaid tax, and that list is always available on our webpage under the Auditor Treasurer's Report. So unpaid tax is public information, so anyone looking to see some banks, if you have an escrow company, they contact our office or they look at that report monthly just to make sure that if someone has a loan outstanding, they don't have unpaid taxes. And if they do, then they're in contact with that individual. But this is just information from payable year 2012 to last year present. And then on the bottom, it has that amount broken down by tax, penalty, interest, and fees, and then the total outstanding. Any questions at all?
Gentlemen, any questions on the unpaid tax report? Commissioner Jelinski.
Mr. Chair, I really don't have a question for Chelsea today, but I just see something here that's blatantly interesting to me. For all the things that have happened in the last 2 years to the world, which also includes Morrison County, our delinquent taxes are at 2.34%, which, unless I'm missing something, here's a 10-year low. Is that correct?
Correct.
I just think that that's amazing. I mean, we all know what's been happening in the last couple of years with COVID and everything else that goes along with it. To be at a 10-year low for delinquent taxes just kind of surprises me. Very good. That's all I've got.
Commissioner Wilson.
Chelsea, can you tell me, I got a lot of ditching in my area, and I know that some of those fees go on your tax statement, correct? So if those people don't pay part of that, or is there a payment program, does that come on delinquent here, or how does that work, kind of, if you can tell me?
Sure. Your question is on delinquent, or your question is on
On ditching, when
Ditch.
people are.
Assessments.
Yeah,
assessment.
the assessments, yeah. Do they come on this piece that we're talking about, or is that another piece that?
So what I can share is just looking at our ditch assessments. I just looked at ditch number 1 because we just wrapped up that assessment year.
Yep.
We did not have any delinquent taxes. If they had an assessment and it was unpaid, it would be then delinquent, and then we would send out a notice of unpaid taxes, which includes assessments. So yes.
I agree with Commissioner Jelinski. It's really nice that it's that low with all the things that have happened in the last few years. So,
Any other questions?
Any other questions, gentlemen? You know, I'll just say there's been a lot of influx of money, from the federal government in the last 2 years in response to COVID and or the economy and that, but I also, want to also recognize the department head and their department for their work on this to bring this number to basically half of what it was as Commissioner Jelinski noted, 10 years ago. And so these things don't necessarily happen by accident, so we appreciate your staff's work and your leadership. Chelsea, please continue.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, I have the fourth quarter cash and investment report. So this is just a report that you see quarterly, showing our investments. The first page is our investments by account. As you can see, for fourth quarter, we brought in just over $20,000 in interest. Looking back at prior years, that amount is low. However, it's exciting to see that we're still accruing interest. And then on the next page, I have our fourth quarter banks, cash, and investments. So the top portion is our liquid funds, if you will, in checking and savings accounts. The section in the middle is specific to certain funds. And then the bottom is our investments. And as you can see, a little difference in fourth quarter. For the bottom, we partnered with Morrison Capital Markets as a new broker. If you recall the middle to end of last year, and so you can see October, November, and December, we have been utilizing them as an investment opportunity, where October is showing no balance with them, and then we started developing that relationship in November and December and continuing. So just kind of a visual there. And then of course on the top under the magic, you'll see that in October there's a large balance, and then it goes down a little bit November, December, and again that is with tax collection, so we have that roller coaster effect with funds coming in and then being dispersed out.
So Chelsea, if I may ask you, with the continued discussion by the Federal Reserve of looking at raising rates, raising the prime interest rate in a number of installments in 2022, should we anticipate an interest rate increase on our investments in this coming year, or will that be reactionary?
Mr. Chair, that's a great question. If I had a crystal ball, I could answer that. You know, when it comes to investments, I'm thinking that our rates are going to go up with what's being shared as an opportunity with our brokers. You know, looking at the beginning of 2021, our interest rates were, you know, 1/10%. You know, looking at a 1-2 year investment. Right now, our brokers, you know, what I'm looking at for rates right now is probably a 2 or 3 year investment, anywhere from 70 basis points to 1%. So we have seen that incline in the last year. So I'm hoping that that's a trend that we keep continuing. However, I can't say that that's going to be the case.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Winchester.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, this is more of a comment than it is a question, but if we look at our interest dollars in the recent past here, they're substantially lower than they were when we started here as board members. And again, I commend you and your department heads and the staff to find ways to make as most that we can with our money that we have invested, because I'm guessing we're down, you know, normally this $20,000 quarterly interest is going to be 30 or 40, just a guess, you know. So, and you're doing a great job just keeping us informed. Steve Messerschmidt, and watching the dollars, as he's pointed out last month, that we as a county are in very great financial position. And again, that goes to your ability to handle the money that we have and the staff. So thank you.
Thank you.
Further comments? Please proceed.
Next on the agenda, I have a resolution for the Hava grant funds. So we discussed a little bit at planning session last week about the Hava grant funds, and I just want to go over it a little bit more in depth as to why and those figures. So during the 2021 first special session in the Minnesota legislature, under Chapter 12, Article 1, Section 41, it was directed the distribution of $3 million from the Federal Help America Vote Act, so the HAVA Act, and appropriations as grants to political subdivisions. So per statute, these funds are to be used to improve accessibility to, implement security improvements for election systems for, and/or fund other activities to improve the security of federal elections. Based on the grant application, it is a $20,000 flat rate per county plus 0.287 cents per voting age population as captured by the 2020 census. So based on the census information at data.census.gov, our Morrison County voting age population was 25,976. So our total allocation would be the 20,000 flat rate plus $7,455.11 for a total of $27,455.11. Direction from the state, the Hava grant program funds may be used by counties for any improvements or enhancements to accessibility or security of elections, and that the Hava grant request must be received by Monday, January 31st of this year, and then we have an anticipated award date for the funds of Friday, March 18th. And then we do have direction that we should be utilizing these funds prior to the November 2020 election date, but we do not have any set date currently for spending. This resolution before you today is one of the requirements along with the grant application to show support that we're applying for these funds. So if I can, I will read the resolution here. So the resolution for approving Help America Vote Act grant application, HAVA funds. Whereas Morrison County is responsible for administering elections and implementing enhancements to accessibility and the security of elections. And whereas the Office of the Minnesota Secretary of State is currently soliciting applications from jurisdictions for grants under the 2022 Help America Vote Act grants program. And whereas Minnesota Secretary of State has HAVA grant funding allocations as a maximum distribution of a amount of a 20,000 flat rate per county plus 0.287 cents per voting age population is captured by the 2020 census. And whereas the HAVA grants program does not require counties to match any amount of funding to be eligible to receive any grant award amount. And whereas to receive the funding from the Help America Vote Act grant account, counties must apply to the Minnesota Secretary of State before January 31st of this year. Now there be it resolved, Morrison County approves its application for funding from the Help America Vote Act grant account. One thing that I do want to add is this is just to apply for the funds. Once we receive the funds, it will come back to board on what we would purchase in regards to spending these funds. So that is not set today as to what we would be purchasing with these funds or implementing in our county.
Chair will ask for a motion to approve.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Jelinski,
Second.
seconded by Commissioner Lemire. Further discussion. Commissioner Wilson.
Okay, we're gonna get the grant money, or we may get the grant money, and then we're gonna spend it on some equipment or something to make things better. I'm trying to think that our election process hasn't been wrong in the past, has it? I mean, how do we make it more efficient, or, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think you know what I'm
Great-
talking about.
Great question. So we have applied for the Vega 3 grant, which is a different grant, and that grant funds I would be using to upgrade our auto marks. This is specific to elections and security, so my vision would be to possibly upgrade a security system, maybe some cameras, or on the doorways we have electronic badging, so maybe securing more rooms based on accessibility as to who can go in and out of those rooms. That would be my goal in looking at in the future with these funds.
Okay. It just doesn't seem like we've had a problem before. I mean, just to get a grant to spend money on stuff that do we really need or don't need? I don't know. We could go on all day about this subject, I guess, but.
Mr.
Commissioner Wilson and Chelsea, if you'd like to comment on that.
Yes. So for the Hava grant, I look at it very similar to the Vega 3 grant. We have the opportunity to apply for funds to offset future costs. And this funding here for the Hava funds was appropriated in special session last year. And so when looking at this opportunity, I feel that we should engage in applying so that it may offset future tax expenses in the future.
Yeah.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Chelsea, you probably have answered the question. Oftentimes, we are told or we find out at some point in time that we received a grant, and because we received this grant, we now have to follow X, Y, and Z. If I'm understanding this correctly, we're going to get $20,000 plus 0.287% per voting age, whatever that means, that's just going to be handed to us to enhance, if you will, what we're doing right now. There's really nothing tied to this, or is there something tied to this that we don't know about that you know?
It's a great question. The specifics to this funding is to improve accessibility to implement security improvements for election systems. So it's specifically around security tied to elections.
Okay, that's good enough for me. Thank you.
Further comments?
Joseph, I get one.
Commissioner Wilson.
You know, the part that questions me is when we talk about spending all this money on security and this and that, and then when it comes down to ID, it's like it doesn't mean anything. You know, I mean, that's the most secure thing that I know in the election process is an ID. And when our federal and state, that's where I have a problem, when they're trying to make everything better, but they don't address the piece that, to me, makes the big difference. So that's just to get it off my chest.
Chelsea, can you comment on that process for voters partaking in the election process, that about having their identification verified in that process?
Yes, I do not have the manual in front of me, so I can go over everything. But you can register to vote with an ID. Otherwise, if you are, say you're a non-registered voter on election day, you can register to vote. And if you don't have an ID and you are in the same precinct as someone who is a registered voter, they can vouch for you, stating that you are who you are. You can also provide other proofs of identity, such as a utility bill within so many days. There's multiple ways that we have said right now where you do not need to have a specific ID. There is alternative routes for registering to vote.
Thank you. Commissioner Winchur.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On that voter ID, and again, I agree with Commissioner Wilson and that sort too, but it's more than the mail-in, because I understand when you go in, you know, you got to have some type of proof when you go in and vote. And I know our election people here in Morrison County do an excellent job of verifying that. But how does one, if I do a mail-in ballot, I don't have an ID to send in, I just put I'm at Joe Blow address, how do you, if it's short version, how do you verify that mail-in?
Sure. So for a mail-in ballot, if you're in a mail-in precinct, say, if you're a registered voter, you would then receive your ballot by mail. If you are not a registered voter, you would not receive a ballot by mail, and you would have to contact our office to register, and then we could get your ballot by mail. So if you are a registered voter in a mail-in precinct, you would get your ballot mailed directly to you, and then you would vote your ballot, read the instructions on how to insert your ballot into the secrecy envelope, and then again into the signature envelope. You sign your signature, and then you also have a portion where there's a witness on that envelope. So in order to vote, you have your signature and you have a witness signing off, verifying that you are who you are.
Thank you.
Commissioner Wilson.
Just to add on that though, because a lot of people say, well, everybody gets it in the mail, but they don't get it in the mail unless they're already registered, correct?
That is correct.
Okay, because I think that's where people misceive this a little bit, that they think everybody's getting a ballot, but you're not getting one unless you are registered to vote. And when they come in to register, that's when you do that ID stuff. Or not ID, but whatever.
That is correct.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
You know, and just for an example, last year we had the March presidential nominating primary, and then we had the August election and the November election. So if you were in a mail ballot precinct, you would have gotten 3 packets with 1 ballot, you know, at separate times during the elections. So just knowing, you know, you're looking at what election you're in. If you're an individual who is saving all of your mail, and you have your March election information that you didn't vote, and then you got your August information to vote in the primary, you may think, well, I already got a ballot mailed to me. And so the question arises, well, why do I have 2 ballots? Well, again, 2 separate elections, and whether you vote your ballot for that election or not is completely up to you. But that was a question, you know, in mail ballot precincts is, you know, we have different ballots. Well, yes, because there is different elections, and so it's up to you whether you want to vote in those elections, but you're only getting 1 ballot per election, and you're only going to get a mail ballot if you're a registered voter.
Commissioner Wilson.
Another follow-up question on that. A lot of people said that I think last year too, or when it was election year, there's different places that send out ballots, like sample ballots and this and that, but nobody will get a ballot that can be turned into the county unless it comes from the county, correct?
Correct. So to add to that, last year there was many mailers that went out from some political parties, some non-profit organizations. You know, there was probably maybe 15, 20 different groups sending out same mailers, and it was to register to vote. That's what those mailers were. And so then if you're a registered voter and you're getting this mail stating registered to vote, it's kind of conflicting because you're already registered. And so we've gotten many phone calls about those mailers because they're concerning, because as a resident or a voter, I'm already registered, I'm active in elections, but I'm getting these mailers every other week. And so that has happened not only in Morrison County, but the whole state. And we have addressed that to the Secretary of State's office because it is hard on individuals and hard on our office because we're getting more phone calls, we're getting more register or applications to register to vote when they're already registered in the system. So these groups, political parties, nonprofits are getting mailing lists and then just mailing them out. No different than political campaign material. And some of it has political campaign material on one side, and then on the other is a form to fill out to become a registered voter.
But even in a mail-in, they have to come in here to register, right? They can't fill out a form at home to register to vote? Or can they?
There is a paper form. There's also, they can register to vote online through the Secretary of State's website. A lot of people update their where they vote when they update their driver's license in the DMV. So if you move, the question will be, you know, should we update your residency to the new address? And then you're checking yes or no on that box. So there's different
I just
routes.
think there's a lot of stuff out there that's a myth, you know, that everything's happening the wrong way, and I don't think it actually does. You know, I think the process is right. So, thank you.
Thank you.
And one more follow-up, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Winchur.
If I'm in a precinct that I can go and vote, it's not a mail-in, but how do I go about requesting a mail-in ballot? Because you know what, I don't want to go out because of this reason or that reason. So I know I can go to my local precinct and vote, but I don't want to. So how would I get a verifiable envelope or something in the mail where I can vote?
Sure. So if you want to vote by mail, you can come into our office because we're the absentee early voting location, so 45 days before the elections. Excuse me, you can vote by mail or early voting, which is absentee the same. So you could vote in person 45 days up until the election day in our office, or you can request to have a ballot sent to you. So contacting our office, or you can submit that request online as well.
And that's where, Mr. Chair, and
Commissioner Winchur.
Mr. Wilson, that's where the confusion comes in, because I see that too. You get a bundle of this crap, I call it. It's like, you know what? I think it deters a lot of voters. Well, I registered here and I registered there. There's just too much of this stuff, and they're making it more complicated for the individual than they're making it easier. And again, common sense says, hey, you know, that's just all like getting a phone call from some solicitor that wants to sell you a warranty, you know, and I think that's what it's coming down to.
You get calls on that?
Yeah, just one.
Gentlemen, any further discussion? You know, well, getting back to the task at hand here, we have a resolution seeking grant funding to continue to provide security in the election process. We have a motion on the table by Commissioner Jelinski and a second by Commissioner Lemire, and this is a roll call vote. Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Winchur.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. This resolution passes unanimously.
I apologize for us getting off task, Mr. Chair.
You're very fine. Thank you,
Conversation, right?
gentlemen, for the questions and the dialogue. This is an important issue. Chelsea, please continue.
Thank you. Next on the agenda, I have a resolution for the Mary Lord School. They have submitted an application to our office to hold a raffle on April 29th at the Falls Ballroom of this year.
Make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
So there's a motion by Commissioner Lemire, second by Commissioner Winchur to approve the raffle. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion prevails. Next.
Next on the agenda, I have a resolution for the Morrison County Ducks Unlimited. They have submitted an application to hold a bingo at Rice Creek Hunt Club on February 13th of this year.
Wishes of the board.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wilson, second by Commissioner Lemire to approve this action by the Ducks Unlimited. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion prevails.
And last but not least on the agenda, I have a request to pay all the bills.
Mr. I'll second it.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wincher and a second by Commissioner Jelinski to pay the warrants. This is a roll call vote. Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. This motion passes unanimously.
That is all I have today. Thank you.
Thank you, Chelsea. Have a great day.
You too.
Gentlemen, we're at the item of the administrator's report.
Morning, Mr. Chair. Two items for discussion today. The first in front of you is a request approval to post the Chief Financial Officer position and the job description included in your packet. Grade 34, this is a 50-50 split between the Administration Office and the Auditor Treasurer Office, and this position's payment will be covered using ARP funds until the incumbent is vacated due to retirement. I'm sorry. They're initially, and I've discussed this at planning session, initially they will take on a special project. They'll be the lead representative in the ARPA commitment plan as we design a spend plan or commitment plan for the $6.5 million the county has received.
Mr. LeBlanc, the 50-50 split on compensation of this position is for this interim, basically. I shouldn't say interim. That's not the this initial position. When this comes to post-retirement, where is that position's revenue taken from? Is that from the administration department, or is that from the auditor treasurers, or does it continue to be a 50-50 split?
Our plan is to continue the 50-50 split, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. LeBlanc. Questions, comments?
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
We have a motion by Commissioner Lemire.
I'll second that.
We have a second by Commissioner Wilson.
Question.
Further discussion. Commissioner Wilson.
Just for clarification, though, 50-50, the money until our finance person has retired, the money for the entire program is coming out of the ARP money, correct?
That's correct, Commissioner Wilson.
Yep.
It's going to be nice, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Lemire.
This is a win-win for us for the fact that they'll be able to work side by side with Steve until his retirement and using ARP funds. It's a win-win. Thank you for bringing this forward, Administrator LeBlanc.
Commissioner Wincher.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And again, just to put this out there, this is not being put on our plate right now. This is something that we've discussed over the past few months.
Good point.
And again, it's, I think, again, I agree with Commissioner Lemire. This is a win situation for the county and for whoever takes over this position, and obviously the ARP money. So again, I'll be for this.
Commissioner Jelinski, any comments?
Nope.
We have a motion and a second. This will be a roll call vote also. Commissioner Wilson.
Aye.
Commissioner Lemire.
Aye.
Commissioner Wincher.
Aye.
Commissioner Jelinski.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. This motion passes unanimously. Mr. LeBlanc.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And second item is correspondence. If I may read a card that I received to the board of one of our former employees who's just retired.
Please.
As it reads, Mike, Jeff, Randy, Mike, Greg, and Matt, thank you for the framed and signed Morrison County Historic Courthouse picture with my dates of service to the residents of Morrison County. It was a pleasure to work for all of you and to serve the residents of Morrison County the past 21 years. I look forward to hanging this in my home and enjoying it for years to come. Signed, Fran.
Wow.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that with us, Mr. LeBlanc. Anything else?
Committee reports and schedules.
We're at that point, gentlemen, and I'm going to ask Tabitha for the dates to be considered.
We're gonna go through January 23rd, all the way through February. Let me look here. 12.
January 23rd through February 12th. And I'm going to ask my good friend, Commissioner Jelinski, you're always on the ball, help us out.
I'm going to start. 24th, 9 o'clock in the morning, I've got a State Emergency Communications Board Regional Leadership Meeting. Was scheduled to be at the DOT in St. Cloud, was moved to Waite Park, and due to all of the COVID in the city of Waite Park, they're having no meetings, no gatherings like that. This will be a virtual meeting. Starts at 9 o'clock. I'll be at my house for this meeting. The 25th of January at 8:30 in the morning, we have a scheduled planning meeting. At 6 o'clock that evening, there should be a Board of Adjustments Planning Commission meeting. Both of those at the Government Center here in the boardroom. The 26th at 11 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Executive Committee meeting. And at 1 o'clock that same afternoon, kind of a continuation, Central Minnesota Emergency Services Board. That's an annual meeting. COVID has done a lot of things to everybody, and this meeting is also going to be virtual. On the 27th of this month at 12:30 in the afternoon, I have a State Emergency Communications Board meeting, which is virtual. The 28th at 10 o'clock in the morning, EMS Joint Powers Board is scheduled to meet. As of this moment, it's scheduled to meet at the Stearns County Service Center. However, I'm confident that that is also going to be a virtual meeting. On the 31st of this month, nobody cares about my dentist appointment. At 6 o'clock in the evening, there's a Good Neighbors EMS meeting. That meeting is scheduled to be at St. Gabriel's Hospital. February 1st, 8:30 in the morning, we should have a planning meeting scheduled here at the Government Center. The 2nd of February, at 8:30 in the morning, there's an ag zoning meeting. That's the first of, I believe, 3 that are scheduled. That will be here at the Government Center in the boardroom. On the 3rd of February at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a State Emergency Communications Board Legislative Committee meeting. That will be virtual. On the 4th of January, Friday the 4th at 8:30 in the morning, we have a scheduled Public Works Planning meeting, and that should be at Public Works. On the 7th, nobody wants to know about another dentist appointment, do you? But I got one.
Teeth problem.
Got a couple issues. On the 8th of February, 9 o'clock in the morning, County Board, here at the Government Center in the boardroom. On the 9th at 8:30, I believe there's a department head meeting. On the 10th at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a Central Minnesota Next Generation 911 meeting, which is virtual. And I believe at noon, I've got a law library meeting, which is upstairs in the law library, I think. On the 11th, at 10 o'clock in the morning, I have a scheduled Central Minnesota RAC meeting, which is virtual also. I have nothing on the 12th or the 13th as of this second, Mr. Chair. That completes my schedule.
Commissioner Jelinski, thank you for keeping us safe. Commissioner Wilson.
I've got airport, no, let's see here. I just lost my train of thought. What dates are we working with here?
23rd through the 12th, 23rd of this month through the
Greg,
12th.
I have RDFA for some reason on my calendar on the 27th, but is that on the 20?
That is next Friday excuse me, I'm sorry, this Friday, today's the 18th. It will be this Friday at 4 PM, is RDFA. You had asked me about that
Yep, that is
before.
I've got it on here twice, that's why I'm asking. Okay.
Yep, this coming Friday, the 21st.
Okay, February 3rd, I've got CMCOA, board meeting, that's virtual. And on February 9th, I've got CHB board at 3 o'clock.
That meeting, Commissioner Wilson, has been canceled.
It has, okay.
The CHB meeting has been canceled. I can tell you that.
Sounds good, that's it. And
Thank you.
I want to thank Commissioner Jelinski, though, for going first all the time, because he kind of fills our calendars for us, so thank you.
Plus, he keeps us safe.
Plus he keeps us safe, yeah.
Commissioner Lemire, help us out.
Chair, I have just one thing to add, HRA on the 31st at 9 o'clock at HRA. That's it.
Commissioner Wincher.
On the 24th of January, we have an extension meeting at 5:30. That'll be here somewhere in the courthouse, not for sure. I think that would be virtual also. On Thursday, the 27th, I have a 5:30 meeting at Tri-County Community. On the 28th, I have a Soil and Water Conservation District, 8 o'clock. That's here at the board meeting. And then, for some reason, maybe you guys can help me out, I have a question mark on the Thursday, the 3rd, Planning Commission Board of Adjustment. Why would I have that? I have no idea. I'll cross it out.
On Thursday, the 3rd of
Right.
February?
Yeah, it says afternoon for some reason, but maybe that was,
I wonder if that was a potential date possibly for one of our egg zoning district meetings that was proposed. That might have confused you.
otherwise I'm filled in for the rest, so thank you.
Commissioner Wincher, thank you. Commissioner Wincher, and we can double check this because we're both on the extension committee, but I thought in the correspondence that was sent by extension that meeting on the 24th will be Zoom only, that it will
And
not be
that's what, it's very possible, but yeah, that'd be a great thing that we can find out.
And the only other thing I think I can add on January 27th at 6 PM is Region 5 at the Sourcewell Building in Staples. Other than that, yeah.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, to follow up on you, yes, you are correct. I didn't read Gloria's email, I read Susan's, and yes, it is Zoom only on the 24th, the extension. So.
Gentlemen, I think we've completed the calendar. Any other discussion you want to bring up? Thoughts, concerns? Otherwise, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Good job,